The Southern Ontario economy is critically dependent on an efficient transportation system for goods. Half of Canada's exports to the United States originate in Southern Ontario. Almost two-thirds of Canada's imports from the United States end up in Southern Ontario. And Southern Ontario is one day's drive to 150 million North American consumers. At present, more than $1.6 billion in trade crosses our shared border each day. Despite the recent economic downturn, the Ontario economy will continue to be heavily dependent on manufacturing, particularly in the automobile sector, but in advanced manufacturing as well. Here's a little-known fact from Stats Canada. As North American automaker presence in Southern Ontario has reduced somewhat, there has been an increase in the presence of offshore producers. In addition, a restructured North American auto industry is expected to begin to rebound starting in 2010. With all of the world's largest automakers present in Ontario, we need to make sure our transportation system is ready for the recovery and is equal to the new demands that will be made on it. It's expected goods movement traffic will increase by 30% over the next 10 years. Let's take a look at Southern Ontario's complex multimodal goods movement system. Inbound, it all starts in ports like Montreal, Halifax, and Vancouver. Increasingly, containers are dropped at Halifax, which is a day's sailing closer from Europe and Asia than U.S. ports. From there, shippers take advantage of Southern Ontario's road and rail network to speed goods not only to this region, but as a high-speed corridor to United States destinations. Typically, the containers are rushed into central Canada by train and truck, but more recently we are beginning to see the movement of containers into ports like Hamilton by specially built short sea vessels like this one. Despite the recent economic downturn, goods movement flow through Southern Ontario is on the rise. The European Union is now Canada's third biggest trade partner. Trade with the European Union in 2008 stood at $86 billion, representing a 3.4% increase in exports and a 10% increase in imports from the EU. To take advantage of central Canada's transportation advantages, the governments of Canada and the provinces have joined forces to create the Ontario-Quebec Continental Gateway and Trade Corridor, to manage the future growth of the logistics chain that runs through Southern Ontario. Nowhere in Canada do the four shipping modes integrate to the degree that they do in Southern Ontario. Those containers that come in from the ocean ports and Montreal end up at massive facilities like the CN Multimodal Terminal at Brampton or at the CP Multimodal Facility in Vaughan. From there, the cargoes are transferred to trucks for their final haul. Similarly, trucks bring in containers filled with Southern Ontario manufactured and bulk goods. Then they are placed on trains, speeding them to Canada's seaports or to the U.S. border, where so much of our output is destined. Similarly, truck and air modes meet at the massive courier and freight facilities at Pearson Airport and at Hamilton International Airport. At Pearson, the majority of cargo is shipped and received in the bellies of passenger aircraft, although they do host large freighter services as well. Hamilton International Airport is a 24-hour operation. After dark, the airport is transported into a hive of activity as feeder planes bring in freight from all parts of Canada. The cargoes are then consolidated and then shipped out by plane to every part of Canada and to key U.S. hubs for worldwide distribution. Purolator and United Parcel Service both operate large sorting facilities in Hamilton. The Niagara region has been designated by the province of Ontario as a special gateway economic zone. Niagara's several road and rail bridges make up the second biggest border crossing between Canada and the United States. A major Canadian retailer like Canadian Tire makes effective use of all four of the major shipping modes. Containers from offshore suppliers arrive at Canada's west and east coast ports by ocean-going vessel, where they are transferred to trains and rushed to the Canadian Tire distribution center in Brampton. From there, containers are trucked to retail outlets throughout central Canada. Canadian Tire is also a major user of air cargo carriers like Purolator for the movement of intercompany documentation, as well as its Mark's Work Wearhouse clothing line. Southern Ontario's continuing success as a driver of the Canadian and Ontario economies will depend on our willingness to support a transportation system that continues to make the region attractive to advanced manufacturing and other investment. This means we have to take a proactive approach to goods movement. First, there is infrastructure. After 2 decades of reduced investment, Ontario is now making strides in new road and transit infrastructure. But there still remain key gaps in the network that will become more urgent as the manufacturing center of gravity continues to shift west of Toronto. Priority needs to be given to projects like the Niagara to GTA and GTA West Corridor projects, and the possible linkage of these projects into a seamless conduit for goods heading to and from the key border crossings. Environmental assessment processes for goods movement projects need to be conducted in a timely but thorough manner, similar to those for transit projects. Priority also needs to be given to the growing congestion problem along the 401 corridor. Multimodal freight facilities take up large amounts of land and are incompatible with residential development. Integrated land use planning is essential to ensure that these facilities can continue to exist in Southern Ontario, or we risk losing our competitive position as a logistics hub. Strategic railway grade separations are a benefit to all transportation modes in relieving congestion. Since 9/11, the movement of goods between Canada and the U.S. has slowed. While border issues are largely in the federal domain, Ontario must encourage streamlined goods movement flow through its involvement in the Ontario-Quebec Gateway process and other forums. Interprovincial trade barriers have been part of the reason that U.S. states have felt free to legally implement Buy American programs that disaffect Canadian trade with the U.S. Goods movement is the major enabler of the Southern Ontario economy. The region continues to enjoy a strategic advantage in our proximity to North American markets and with the quality of our infrastructure. But that advantage is at risk without a coordinated approach to goods movement similar to the emphasis now being placed on public transit. Transportation is a complex issue that involves several ministries in the Ontario government and includes planning, environment, infrastructure, economic development, and skills training. The Southern Ontario Gateway Council, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and the Canadian Industrial Transportation Association believe that our future competitiveness requires an ongoing, multidisciplinary approach to managing goods movement in Ontario over the coming years. It's time to move forward as a team to make Ontario the goods movement hub in North America.